The reading of Chapter 2, Social, Cultural Knowledge and Experience, supported my understanding of children's language development. Children develop the capability to use, talk about, and learn through language within the social and cultural context of their lives. Children's socio-cultural lives are built from their families and community they grew up in. Someone who grew up in California is not going to have the same background, cultural, and literacy experiences as someone from Florida. Therefore, in the classroom, the teacher's job is to understand their diversity and encourage them to share their experiences. As the teacher, it is important to uncover these differences through assessment and conversation. Then the teacher can provide relevant instruction that is meaningful to cultural experiences. In my undergrad degree experience, we were required to take 2 courses, one called Children and Families and the other Culturally Linguistic Language Learners. Through these 2 courses, it provided me the understanding of the importance of getting to know your students as much as possible. In order to teach students, we have to know their cultural backgrounds, experiences, and how they are as a learner. This is possible through observation, interviews, conferences, etc., with both the student and their families. Through these experiences, we are able to build a bridge to connect the student's home, community, and classroom experiences into the curriculum that reflects the knowledge of their families and culture. While reading of Chapter 2, Social, Cultural Knowledge and Experience, I found most surprising was the vast amount of evaluation forms provided. The provided questions on each form surpassed my questions in my own experience for getting to know students and their literacy practices. These forms will help enhance my knowledge of my students in the classroom and will be used by me for each school year. After reading the chapter, one question that still lingers is, after finding out all this information on our students about their language and literacy practices, how do we accommodate our instruction for all of our students to expand on their interests, strengths, and weaknesses? From reading Chapter 4, Creating Literacy-Rich Environments, it supported my understanding of children's language development. From reading Chapter 4, Creating Literacy-Rich Environments, the idea of a sacred table surprised me. While I was teaching 6th grade math during my student teaching, I found my students were uncomfortable sharing their answers if they were not 100% sure they solved the problem correctly. Many students were hesitant to ask their peers for help for fear of looking dumb. Many strategies I tried to build their confidence and show them that it takes time to answer the math questions correct all the time. I purposely made errors while solving problems in front of the class to show that even teachers make mistakes. When a student makes an error and found the mistake, I applauded them for not giving up. Or if they didn't find their error, I pointed out it was okay to not have the correct answer, but we learn from our errors. The idea of using a sacred table for students who need extra help during class is a fantastic idea. This idea takes the stigma away from students who worry about what other students might say. This sacred table is a space where students can regard it with respect and know it is there when they need any help. The ultimate goal for teachers is to create a classroom where students become active and effective readers and learners. There are many ways we as teachers can support this goal, and through this chapter, it supported my understanding. Teachers need to create a safe and productive learning environment, and that starts with the feeling of being accepted by teachers and peers. Safely and productively form expectations and purpose of assignments. Provide students with the confidence to complete tasks successfully and see their value in their learning activities. The classroom needs to have an understanding of the purpose of having a classroom library. The learning environment needs to support literacy by providing extensive independent reading time, group and/or class discussions. Discussions help students clarify their understanding of what they read, refine their thinking, share their ideas, and explore related issues. In my experience, being provided the opportunity to discuss class readings on chapters and articles, it has opened my eyes to different perspectives provided by my peers. Many times, I also have been faced with readings I have struggled to understand. So by discussing the readings further, it has helped me understand and provide me with comprehending the material. This is what we need to incorporate into our lessons as teachers: the opportunity to discuss joint or individual readings, and this will help our students with comprehension and provide them an alternative perspective from their peers. From reading this chapter, one question that I still have is: the research provided by Schmucker contradicts everything I have learned. Isn't learning through hands-on activities and engaging lessons provide students more opportunities to learn and understand the material than writing and note-taking in class? From the chapter, from his research study, it revealed that approximately 25% of students scored proficient or higher on state assessments in schools where writing and note-taking were rare in science class. Schools who were required to write and note-take scored 79% higher at a proficient level. From the reading of Chapter 1, Cultural Circles and Critical Pedagogy, it supported my understanding of children's language development. In our classrooms, we have a variety of students in our class, and of course, they are not all the same. Students in our classroom come from a variety of cultures and all have different experiences to share. This means our teaching needs to be aware of this. As the article stated, we need to move away from the model of education that is based on transmission of knowledge to students' brain like money into banks. We need to create a curriculum that builds upon previous experiences our students have had, create a democratic setting where everyone has responsibility and feels comfortable to contribute to the conversation and lesson. The traditional model of education was built on the idea that students are the same. We can measure students based on their state test scores. But today, we understand that the traditional model does not work. Our instruction has to involve students' cultural backgrounds, family, community, and the individual learners to provide students to be successful. Through this, our instruction will provide students more opportunity and understanding of content material. From the reading of the chapter, I have found that the example of who was the first person to fly surprising. From living in the United States and going through the New York State curriculum, I always took the facts taught to me in social studies as absolute. When I read that in Brazil they are taught Santos Dumont was the first to fly, it made me think. The article stated, our curriculum is not always culture-free, so that means we need to teach the individual rather than the curriculum. When we are looking at our own curriculum as teachers, we need to understand that our students may have a different perspective based on their backgrounds. Therefore, our teaching students facts from our curriculum are not always absolute, but are based on cultural knowledge. This is important. In the chapter, it says that we need to teach curriculum with considering students' individuality and cultural differences. One question that I still have is, how do we teach different cultural events if our curriculum provided by our school district requires us to teach it? For example, there is a large debate between Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day. With that in mind, how do we decide what to teach to our students? From the readings, I will apply new strategies and ideas in my work with children by using a variety of forms provided in the text to inform me of my students, to get to know them, understand their literacy practices, and how they are as a learner. By using these forms, I will understand and uncover these varied language practices in their home and community life. Therefore, building bridges to connect home, community, and classroom experiences. All children come to school with a variety of daily language and literacy experiences from their own families. For example, some families encourage their children to observe more than participate, or some families use lots of oral language with their children, and some enculturate more through modeling and demonstrating. Through this, understanding the connection between home, community, and classroom brought into the curriculum taught will reflect the rich knowledge of family and culture. Content area teachers need to emphasize reading and writing practices that are specific for the subject taught. Teaching language arts will be different from science because of the content, reading, writing, and discussions. I will continue to apply the 4 dimensions of social, personal, cognitive, and knowledge building to create students who are active and effective readers and learners. I will also teach my students that what I teach is not absolute, and many facts differ from each culture.